Hello, this is my presentation as a brick maker. And basically what brick makers did was they made bricks out of clay or mud, and sometimes even mud bricks with straw in them. And they would barter them or sell them and live off of them. And today I will be making a clay brick, and let's go to our first step. So my first step here is going to be starting the fire, preparing it, making sure it gets hot enough for the brick to actually heat up and become a brick. But most brick makers wouldn't have usually made this their first step. They would actually make it their last, because the making a brick, it's a process that takes quite a bit longer than I thought it would. And basically would go locally find their clay, they would bunch it up, and then they would make this whole little pit, throw it all in there, and mix it in with their feet. And sometimes they would add water to depending on the consistency of the clay and for the size or what kind of bricks they're making. And well, I have all my wood right here, and I actually have something very similar to what they used to make the bricks, except they would have a way bigger little stove, and they would throw in all their wood at the bottom, and it would rise up, and it would cook the bricks like that, and they would be about your finger widths apart from each other. That way all the heat can pass through them. Next step. With the process that I'm cooking it, since I don't have the exact same kind of stove, I need to make like this little inside box inside of the oven, and it'll be all surrounding my little brick, which I will have placed right here. And then I will close this up right here, so that the only place for heat to go is out through that little hole at the top, or holes. And the actual stove or oven's made out of these kinds of bricks. Exactly. This one right here is a mud and grass and straw, and this one's just a plain mud brick. Just nice little examples. And now I gotta get the fire started. Continuing on the process of making a brick, after the little pit of mixing with their feet, they would then get a good amount of that clay, throw onto a table, and they would just take chunks of that at a time, where they would mix it up even more a little bit with their hands, and maybe even sometimes add more water depending on if the consistency of the clay was right. And after that, they would throw it into this mold where it's about maybe 1.5 feet long, just a rectangle, then split down the middle, and you can make 2 bricks at a time. And they would roll the clay up, roll it in some sand, and then they would just throw it into the two little boxes in the mold, and then they would get another straight stick or something, and they would just scrape the top off of the excess amount, and which they would just add back to the pile. And then after that, they would take that mold, and they would then go just actually let the bricks air dry or heat dry in the sun, and the bricks could be sitting there from up to either a week or a month, and then they would then be storaged and kept there even longer until they're to be cooked. And depending on what they're making, or what they're using the bricks for, I should say, will depend on how long they will have those bricks storage for. And well, now I will start my process of making my clay. I got this whole big bunch because I have no idea where to find clay. And I'm just gonna cut a little, or not a little, a good amount off of this. Right there, we got this good amount. Even then, still need more. Just gonna throw that in there. Get my next piece. Probably shouldn't be cutting towards myself, but I'm gonna get the right amount. Alright, since I don't have my own little mixing pit, also just don't really want to, I just threw all the clay in this bowl. I'm gonna start mixing it in. And based off of the videos I've seen on these, this clay isn't gonna need too much water or mixing because it is actually pretty soft already. Now that my clay is all nice and mixed up, pretty much all I'm gonna do is get this sand and spread it out nicely. Not nicely, but evenly. Make sure I'm able to cover the base of the brick. And just like that, got a nice little brick ready for the oven. Finally, on to our last step. Our stove is all nice and ready. I cleared up the area a little bit. Got my brick right here. And now I will just place it inside the oven. Put a brick on it, that way or put a napkin under it, that way I could slide it a little bit better because it is awfully hot inside of the oven. And just like that, we wait, and now I will cover it up with, I will cover this hole with these bricks right here in hopes that it'll cook the brick very nicely. Now that it's nice and sealed up, I will be checking it every now and then, making sure that the fire is still going, make sure it's still nice and hot in there, and just keep doing that until the brick looks like it's ready, which then I will pull it out and check it out and see if it turned out nicely.